Melhor Você. Oferecimento Energia Travel Insurance, Kingsway Real Estate Brokerage, Clube Noturno Momentos, Rico Burrito, Boutique Med Spa, Mandala Travel e Netlist, o guia comercial brasileiro do Canadá.
Bom dia, meu nome é Andy Vieira e esse é o Melhor Você. Bem-vindos! Hoje eu tenho uma convidada super especial. Ela é especialista em Botox e fillers. E hoje eu tenho aqui com vocês Emma. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here at our show. I was telling my Portuguese audience that you're a specialist in fillers and Botox.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, and thank you for having me.
So tell me, the first thing, what's the difference between Botox and other fillers?
So Botox is a neuromodulator medication. And what that is just a fancy name for a medication that can block some chemical signals from the nerve to the muscle. So with Botox, we use it to temporarily reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. With dermal filler, it is a hyaluronic acid that we usually use. And what we use that for is for the deeper lines and folds. So for example, the nasolabial folds here, and we also use it to replace lost volume, like in the cheeks and the lips.
Yeah, and both men and women does the fillers and Botox?
Oh, absolutely. It's very popular for both women and men. Sometimes we call Brotox for men.
I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's very popular for both, and the treatment might be a little bit different depending on if it's a male or a female, but everyone's welcome and everyone can benefit from these treatments. So.
And what is the benefit from Botox? Like, it's just the skin?
No, so the way it works is, let's say we're injecting your forehead, for example. So the way the neuromodulator medication works is it blocks the chemical signal from the nerve to the muscle. And when that happens, the muscle would normally contract, but when that signal is blocked, instead it relaxes. And when the muscle relaxes, what you see on the surface on the skin is that the fine lines and wrinkles really soften and reduce.
That's what happens
when
you have hashtags in your forehead and you do Botox and they are gone.
Exactly.
And how about the fillers?
So we usually use a hyaluronic acid filler, and a good rule of thumb that I tell my patients is that we usually use neuromodulators like Botox to treat the lines of expression in the upper parts of the face, like above the eye. And then we'll use a dermal filler to treat the lines at rest in the lower parts of the face, like the nasolabial folds, or to replace lost volume.
My case. Because when you lose a lot of weight and you age, right, usually. And is this the same one that we do for lips?
Yes, it would be the same treatment. We use different products for different areas, but you can use a hyaluronic acid filler for lips as well. It just may be a little bit softer than some other products than you would use for the jaw, for example, or for the cheeks.
And you're full specialist, right? Because you're a nurse.
Yes.
So that makes totally different.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me about like what care I should be having, because like it doesn't matter like if you put just the Botox or the filler and you don't have like a good routine health, like doesn't work. Like
so first I guess it's important that you're a good candidate for Botox and neuromodulators. So it's really important to have a good consultation with your provider or injector before. And they're gonna wanna ask you about 3 main things in order to make sure that you're a good candidate. First, they're gonna ask you about your allergies and your past medical history. And that's really important because there are certain circumstances where getting neuromodulator treatments like Botox isn't safe. For example, if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, if you've been diagnosed with certain neuromuscular diseases or autoimmune diseases, then it wouldn't be safe. The second thing they're going to want to talk to you about is your medications. So they're going to want to know what prescription medications you take, because there are actually some heart medications as well as some antibiotics that can change the way the Botox works. They're also going to want to know about the herbal medications you take, because some herbal supplements can increase your risk of bleeding and bruising. The last thing they're going to want to know about is vaccines and travel. And that's only because we don't recommend getting injectables within 2 weeks of a vaccine.
Okay.
And it's not advised to travel too close to getting your injectables, just because if there's an undesired effect, we really want to bring you back into the clinic to address it as soon as we can.
And what you can expect, like when doing like a Botox, how long does it take to kick?
That's a good question. So it actually takes up to 2 weeks to see the full effects from neuromodulators. So I always tell my patients that if you're getting a treatment for a special event, always plan your treatment at least 2 weeks before that event. And it's always a good idea to have one treatment before the treatment you're doing for that special event. So what I mean is, for example, if you want to get Botox for your wedding, I recommend getting 2 treatments. The first treatment will be 3 to 4 months before the wedding, kind of like a trial run like we do with our hair and makeup, and then you'll know exactly what to expect in terms of the aesthetic outcome as well as any undesired effects.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then the next treatment would be 2 weeks before your wedding, and then there won't be any surprises in terms of the outcome.
And the idea of doing like 2 weeks before the event is the best, because you never know if you're gonna have bruises or...
Yeah.
Because that can happen too.
It's always a possibility. So we always have to educate our patients on that before as well, on what to expect after your treatment.
And for how long does it take for the fillers to quick? Like,
it does take about 2 weeks as well, just because a lot of them are hydrophilic, so they pull in water. So usually when we do filler, it fills to about 70%, and then you'll see the rest of it fill from 70% to 100% over the next 2 weeks. And the length of time that fillers last really depends on the product you're using, and there's just so many out there. It really depends on the product, but generally they'll last about 6 to 9 months.
And how do you fall in love with this? Because it's amazing. You really have to love what you do to do it well. And she does amazingly.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I do love my job. I think I fell in love with it. I've always loved skincare. I've always been so just mesmerized by this industry. And I finally bit the bullet and I jumped in 2019. And I started doing friends and family, and then their friends and family, and it just kind of started snowballing. And I found that it's so different from what I did in my 9-to-5 job as a nurse practitioner, but it's like a nice yin yang, and it's a really nice complement because it's so different. And I really just love connecting with people. I love sitting in the office and talking to women and making them feel better about themselves, making them feel more confident, making them just feel more refreshed is the biggest one. Yeah, so that fills my cup, making other people feel good.
Because it's self-love, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And it's so important to say that, because some people have the stigma that I'm not going to do Botox, I'm not going to do fillers. It's not to have the Russian lips, right? Everybody call Russian lips, right? The big lips that here is all one thing. It's about feeling good about yourself. Like we just had this weekend, we had my husband done. So I'm going to talk about it, like how men should be taking care of themselves, right? This is not for women only, right? And if you don't feel like natural anymore, like feel too much lines, why not?
Exactly. I think it's all about making you feel good, whatever that looks like. If it's going for a run, if it's going to the gym, if it's getting your PhD or getting Botox, whatever it is that makes you feel good, you need to do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me more about the facials that you do.
So I specialize in neuromodulator treatment, so Botox, Dysport, Zeman, and there's a new one, Nuceiva, as well as dermal filler treatment, so replacing lost volume and filling in, like I said, the deeper lines and folds in the face. I also do platelet-rich plasma treatments. We do that for under-eye rejuvenation, for hair growth, and also for facials. And actually sclerotherapy as well, where we target the spider veins on the legs.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and we also, sorry, one more thing. We do the deoxycholic acid treatments where we dissolve fat under the chin and along the jawline.
Wow, that's amazing. How does that work?
It's little injections, kind of like Botox, and we just put it in the submental area. And within 5 weeks, you'll notice that the fat dissolves.
Dissolves?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
There's lots out there.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing is doing everything with a nurse.
Yeah.
Because you have to know where you are going to have those treatments. Where are you attending? Like you're located in Kleinburg.
Exactly. So I work at Kleinburg Rejuvenation Clinic in Kleinburg. We're located at 110 Nashville Road. I myself am a nurse practitioner, and I work with another colleague, Janine, who's also a nurse practitioner, and we have Karina on staff as well, and she's a registered nurse, so it's a really nice team of women. I love it.
And tell me one thing, doing Botox as a prevention, because I hear a lot about that.
Yeah.
Young girls doing, how does that work? What age should they start?
Usually in their 20s. Preventative Botox, and even if you have like a little line or wrinkle, we can address that. Usually people who are younger don't need as many units as someone who's a little bit older. It really depends on the look they're going for and what areas they want to target. But yeah, it's a great treatment to start young if that's something you're interested in.
And how does that work? Like if I start younger, it's going to be easier for me to manage my getting older lines?
Yeah, so if you start getting injections like neuromodulators earlier for the fine lines and wrinkles, you'll find that they won't be as deep set and you'll prevent them from coming on in the future as well. So it is good for preventative treatments as well. Yeah, with everything else like sunscreen and facials and all that stuff.
And does the Botox stay in the body or goes away?
So when we inject it, it goes into the muscle, and like I said, it stays in the muscle, and then the results are seen on the surface of the skin. It usually lasts about 2 to 4 months. The results will last 2 to 4 months, but that really depends on a few things. So that depends on which muscle we're injecting, first of all. So when we inject around the mouth for example, smoker's lines or for a lip flip, because the mouth muscle is so active, you're gonna see the lines and wrinkles come back a little bit sooner than you would, for example, in the glabellar area here. The length of time that it lasts also depends on metabolism. So if you have a really fast metabolism, you might notice that the lines and wrinkles come back a little bit sooner than someone who has a slower metabolism. Another thing to consider is the number of units. So if you inject a higher number of units, you'll notice that it might last for a lot longer as well.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you. Eu sou Andy Vieira e esse foi o Melhor Você com Emma, nossa injetadora oficial de Botox e fillers, esclarecendo todas as nossas dúvidas. Até a próxima.
Melhor Você. Oferecimento Energia Travel Insurance, Kingsway Real Estate Brokerage, Clube Noturno Momentos, Rico Burrito, Boutique Med Spa, Mandala Travel e Netlist, o guia comercial brasileiro do Canadá.